Hi everyone, this is Drew Wharton from Nimble Leader, along with Bruce Rubin. Bruce is Managing Director with Nimble Leader and President of BHR Global, with specific focus on building international supply chain networks with relationships across the globe. Bruce, before we begin, do you have anything to add?
All the changes going on in the supply chain and in the world, and looking forward to getting back to more normal operation.
Okay, let's jump into our session for today.
Bruce, one of the things that you and I discussed recently is product life cycles are getting shorter and shorter. This change is a systemic shift with long-term implications. From a supply chain perspective, what are these implications?
It puts more stress on the new product development team to come up with products faster and more up to date, what customers can and will use. The process that existed for a long time no longer is valid and must be updated to today's world. You need to be looking at one landed cost versus getting the product and then having to worry about shipping and getting the product to your facilities. And in some cases, be looking at third-party logistics companies to work with who can handle the products and ship the products for you at less cost, and also, especially for smaller companies, reduce the need for infrastructure and overhead that you don't need. Bottom line is outsourcing both operations and components cost will give you a better bottom line.
Okay, so it seems like what I'm hearing you say is that supply chain teams need to be more nimble. They've got to evolve to address what's currently happening in the marketplace. So Bruce, this sounds like a difficult challenge. And a couple of weeks back, you shared the following slide with me, which was really mind-boggling. Almost half of small businesses are having significant challenges with cost reduction, transportation, inventory, and vendor management. Bruce, this current state, and key challenges seems like a recipe for disaster. Can you share what you're seeing out there?
Well, companies need to automate their inventory processes and be able to get handle on their inventory. More and more systems are developed. 43% number will become lower. And challenges still exist, as it says in the slide. North American companies since 2019 have spent over $1 billion in robots and artificial intelligence and other software platforms are becoming more and more cost effective for small businesses to use.
You touched on a number of things that are happening from a trend perspective. It seems like the current model is broken. Supply chain management teams are smaller. We talked about the fact that they have to evolve, right? So increased change and risk in the supply chain. What can mid-market companies do to get their arms around this problem?
One of the things we mentioned was one delivered cost and need to work with their vendors to have them handle the cost of shipping to locations that a company has, be it at their facility or to third-party logistics companies that they're using. That reduces the risk, and since the vendor is the onus on the vendor to have the product delivered, and using third-party logistics companies to pick, pack, and ship your product helps minimize your costs because you're letting people do what they do best. And
right.
Also software integration. Third-party logistics companies typically keep more up to date with software than a small company might be able to.
So Bruce, I'm hearing one delivered cost. And then what I'm also hearing really quite strongly from you is this notion of, look, lead on their strengths and their capabilities. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. That sounds like a great point. However, you always frame this within the context of the supply chain, maximizing efficiencies at every step of the supply chain to improve overall profit. Can you share with us what you mean by that?
Each point in the supply chain, starting with the suppliers, making the product most efficiently and effectively for them, will reduce your cost. Have the product delivered to your facility in a manner which you can use most effectively, and then having the product shipped to your warehouse or a third-party logistics warehouse to get the product to the customer more efficiently and effectively. And we can do this, and we need to change the the mindset from a supply chain, as the slide says, to a value chain, so that at every step in the process, we are maximizing efficiencies and effectiveness and minimizing costs, therefore increasing profit and getting to the product to the customer, and in some cases, even at a lower cost.
What I'm hearing you say is that supply chain teams need to harness the innovation outside of their walls, which can probably be a little bit difficult, right? And so this all sounds very practical, but how do you execute on this shift in headset? My take in is the nature of ops is pretty conservative. They manage risk. They want to take variation out of the system.
Well, you need to change the mindset at the companies from a transactional process where somebody issues a PO and then waits for delivery to more collaborative and relationship with the vendors. And like I said, treat them as partners and not quote unquote as the enemy. And having strategic alliances with vendors will allow you also to find new products and help with the product development process that you might need to grow your business.
Okay, so move from an adversarial relationship to a win-win relationship. And Bruce, it sounds wonderful, but my next question is, what are the tangible next steps to actually make this happen?
Well, from treating the vendor as a partner, you need to set up, as it says, they're a cross-functional internal team, which includes sales, marketing, finance, as well as materials and supply chain people, so that everybody has a hand in what you need and how you operate with the vendor as a partner, and also come up with new products and new product additions that will help grow your business and change the mindset from just, like I said, writing a PO is a transaction versus having a relationship with the vendor on a more personal and business level.
Okay, you talk about this face-to-face versus Zoom.
Well, on Zoom, there's only so much interaction, in my opinion, that you get by visiting a vendor's facility and sitting down with them face-to-face, as well as walking through their plant. You can see how they make the products you use, and find out what can they do to become more effective and deliver you something you can use at a lower cost. And you can't do that on a Zoom call. You can't see the people working, and you can't see operations. And also, by going to the vendor and face-to-face interactions, you can brainstorm and develop a plan to go through for cost reduction and follow through each one. And also how they would work with your third-party logistics partners and getting the product to facilities that you are using to pick, pack, and ship your product if you don't have to do anything at your facility with the product.
So I agree. Face-to-face is really kind of important. You don't necessarily need to do it every week. You might do it quarterly or semi-annually, getting together with those partners on a collaborative basis.
Yes, and taking your top 10 vendors and setting up a process, as you mentioned, be it quarterly or semi-annually or annually, and work with them to make sure that all those visits happen at both sides.
Okay, so Bruce, the process sounds disciplined and right on. Also, you appear to leverage the investment of your vendor partners versus incurring those same investments yourself. And so my guess is, if you're going to look year over year, that you might actually be able to take your cost structure down.
Yes.
Can you give us an example of how you brought this to life in the past?
Yes. Company I work with had this product, which is a shower. If you have a tub on legs or don't have a shower, already built into your bathroom. Some of the components came from China and Israel, and the product is from the US, but need to be plated. Found a facility and helped set up a company in Brooklyn over the plating operation. So they were able to, the facility wasn't being used, so they were able to get a low rent cost. All the supplies were drop shipped to the facility. They managed to get the plating that was necessary in some areas to get chrome plated as needed. All the packaging and shipping supplies were sent to them. And the bottom line was we had 100% on-time delivery to the retailers' distribution centers. And because of that, there was a 12% revenue growth year over year and a 50% improvement in margin. And the company that I was working with never touched any of the components, and everything was done through drop shipping.
Okay, so it sounds like a zero risk opportunity here that you were able to
Yes.
drive. And so the example brings it all together. Sounds like you're reshoring versus offshoring.
And that's going to be, reshoring is going to become more and more of an issue as time passes.
So we're closing out on our time today, Bruce. Why might someone work with you to address supply chain management issues?
As the slide mentioned, we have worldwide connections, and including beyond the companies that are mentioned here, work with companies in India as well. Each one provide expertise in certain areas, and also allows us to get the lowest cost for the customer. We work with companies in all the areas mentioned. And in most cases, we have local resources as in the USA, so on, and as well as international. We only deliver high quality products at quote unquote the right cost, the lowest possible price. It's to get the best price for the right quality. And we could, depending on the size of the company, handle everything from the production to shipping with the vendors to storage and then to the end user. So if you're a startup or a small company and expanding, you don't need to have a large facility, because everything can be outsourced through our contact base and have the product, like I said, from beginning to end in the process. And we have set up in certain areas and in certain situations where we got vendors that allowed the product to be shipped and the dollars collected before we had to pay the vendor for the products that were received.
Okay, so trusted manufacturing partners all over the world, including the US, manufacturing expertise, high quality products delivered at the right cost. Important that you talked about complete end-to-end supply chain, and then this whole notion of cash neutral positions. It doesn't get any better than that. Now, Bruce, can you share with us about your process?
What we need to get started is product specifications in detail, product prints in detail that our vendors can use, and in some cases, depending on where the vendor is and the product is, they need to see a sample. The typical timing for a product is and getting a proposal within 7 to 10 days of receiving specifications and prints, and then we'll have you a price, and if you agree with the price and the cost, then tooling will take about 6 weeks to be produced. And then depending on where the product is being made and the source involved, as much as 12 weeks to get the product made and delivered.
Okay, so 16, 20 weeks end to end from the time that they start working with you before product is actually at the doorstep. So it seems like it's very fast and a great process.
Okay, everyone, we're coming to the close for our session today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Bruce or myself. And if we have your email address, we'd be happy to send you the slides for today's session. Thanks again, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.